Welcome to VidZette, your home for careful consideration of our common concerns. I'm Dr. Ted Noel, coming to you from beautiful downtown Sisters, Oregon. If you ever get the chance, come visit. It's a great place to spend some time. Today, we want to talk about the so-called opioid crisis. And if you listen to the news, if you listen to Jeff Sessions, if you listen to Donald Trump or any of these other people, there's this horrible problem with these deadly opioids. And the deadliest one is fentanyl. And because fentanyl is so deadly, we've got to potentially put the death penalty out for pushers who push it onto people who are getting their fixes. Really, there are some key questions we have to ask before we get to that. First of all, let's look at the numbers. Roughly 66,000 people died of overdoses in 2016, 72,000 in 2017. And the overdoses, about a third of them had fentanyl involved. So it sounds like these guys are talking good. They're really straight. But the fact is that even though every overdose is a tragedy, these people in DC who are pushing the police model are doing something that we'll talk about in a minute as very, very wrong. It's evil what they're doing because it's actually causing the problem. But let's go through some history. First of all, what is an opioid? An opioid is a drug that acts like opium. That's where the term comes from. And the Chinese had opium for many centuries before we had any of our modern medicine. Now, in 1960, the first of our really good modern synthetic versions was developed. That's fentanyl. We'll talk about that in a minute. But in 1974, we discovered something called endorphins. Now, endorphin comes from two words. Endogenous morphine. Basically what those things are, there's hormone type molecules where the body is making its own morphine. And this is very important in the fight or flight response. When you have a big injury, it helps you get through it. All of these things are very important in your normal physiology. So there's nothing wrong with morphine. Morphine is just given to work on the receptor where the endorphins normally work. And when you need more, that's how you get it. Now, there are three drugs that are very, very similar. They all come from the opium alkaloid: morphine, heroin, and Dilaudid. Now, if any of you have had big surgery, you may have had morphine or Dilaudid as your pain control post-surgery. That's very, very normal. And what happens is that this drug is given. It reaches the morphine receptor, the endorphin receptor, if we're going to get real picky, and it causes pain relief. Well, guess what? If I give you 10 milligrams of morphine, I get about the right amount for most people for post-op pain relief. If I give you 2 milligrams of Dilaudid, I get the same effect. But if I give you 5 milligrams of heroin, guess what? I get the same effect. They are very closely related chemically. And if we look at them in terms of how they're given, how long it takes for them to start, how long they last, and what their side effects are, you can't tell them apart. They're all basically the same drug. Now, remember, I am uniquely qualified to talk about this because I'm an anesthesiologist. These drugs were my daily stock in trade for 36 years. And by the way, fentanyl, I administered it by the gallon. It's safe. Now, let's go back to 1960. Paul Janssen identified fentanyl and discovered it was a very potent opioid. It's about 100 times as strong as morphine. Now, if you listen to the news, this sounds like we're looking at, oh my goodness, it's strong, it's dangerous. That's absolutely 100% backwards. The more potent a drug is, the more it says, I want to go to this exact receptor. And if it goes to this exact receptor, it doesn't go other places and cause more problems. So fentanyl is 100 times as safe as morphine. You heard me right. It's 100 times as safe. The difference between fentanyl and morphine is that if you give it IV, fentanyl takes about 5 minutes to come on. Morphine takes 30 to 40. If you are wanting it to last a long time, you're going to have to give more because it lasts about 40 minutes, whereas morphine will last 3 to 4 hours. Same for heroin, same for Dilaudid. That's the only real difference there. Like I said, the instant benefit is that it is safer than anything else you can give. Now, as we've gone on, we've developed what we call fentanyl congeners. And we make jokes in medicine. Well, we have fentanyl's brother Al and sister Sue. And we don't know what gender Remy is or Car, but alfentanyl, sufentanil, remifentanil, carfentanil are all very, very good opioids. And alfentanil, sufentanil, and remifentanil all found their way into medical practice along with fentanyl because they had some particular specific benefits. Remifentanil, for example, would wear off in 5 to 10 minutes. It gave you the opportunity to give very large doses and get rid of it very quickly for short, very painful procedures. And so these are stronger yet than fentanyl, which means they are safer than fentanyl. And the question then is, why is there a problem with fentanyl? Grab your cup, have a little water, and we will continue. Okay. The question now, and one of the people have written in, so all those people who are buying them illegal area are prescribed by doctors. No, and they don't. That's not how people get addicted. Let's look at how people do get addicted. There is a possibility that if you have a lot of opioid after a painful situation, then you can over time get what's called physiological dependence. Physiological means your body gets used to having it. It wasn't that you took it to get a high. It made you dependent, and now you need to get it more and more. And what will happen is if you are continually taking medicine, let's say you got chronic low back pain, your dose of morphine might be 10 milligrams, and before long it goes to 15 and 20. And we've seen a lot of chronic pain patients getting 300 and 400 milligrams at a time. That's because they have a physiological tolerance, it's called. And this receptor has seen so much of it, it takes more for the receptor to react. But this is medical administration. And if we look at addiction, physiologic dependence is not addiction. That's psychological dependence. That is, I took the medicine to get high. And if I took the medication to get high, I get this rush, and fentanyl really good at giving a rush if I administer it to myself. A number of anesthesiologists got addicted that way. That's one reason we have some very, very strict protocols on how narcotics are dispensed and returned and accounted for and so on in the operating room. In any case, you take it to get high. Man, that felt good. I'll take it again to get high again. Oh, that felt good. But after a while, you develop physiological tolerance. You need a higher dose to get high. And then you get an addictive circumstance. And everybody who becomes dependent, whether it's physiological or psychological, they become dependent where if you suddenly cut off their narcotic, and remember, by the way, cocaine's not a narcotic. Opioids are narcotics. So I'll use the term here on out. If we suddenly cut off your narcotic, what will happen is that you will experience what's called the abstinence syndrome. TV shows and movies paint this as withdrawal, where the guy's in the corner and he's crawling, he's got bugs crawling all over him, he's puking his guts out and whatnot, and all that stuff does happen. Everybody's a little different. There are occasional people who can just quit and gone and no big deal. But most people who've been on the drugs for a long time can't suddenly quit. And one of the problems we have with our new laws where people are saying, well, you can only give 3 days or 5 days worth of a narcotic, and this is sweeping the country, is all of a sudden you have chronic pain patients who cannot get relief. They're going through the withdrawal, the abstinence syndrome, and they are choosing, some of them, to commit suicide because it's too awful. They didn't sign up for that. But the state legislature decided that, oh, yes, you did, and you can't have any more. This is stupid in the extreme. I sat down before our last legislative session in Florida with my state legislator and explained to him how stupid it was and gave him some stuff, and they still voted and brought it in. It's dumb. In any case, the reason that the addict now goes back for more is it's not for the hit. The hits are gone. You don't get the high. They're avoiding the abstinence syndrome. It's horrible to have to sit in the corner with this stuff. So let me get another hit. I need a fix. Those sorts of things go on. And that's why the addicts will find their way to taking more and more, and they will commit crimes to get money. They go to their curbside pharmacist and get a bag of whatever, and on and on. All of those things are done out of desperation because they can't avoid the abstinence syndrome. They're trying to avoid the pain of withdrawal. So now you've got this going on. And remember, addicts don't normally take drugs in order to get overdosed and die. That's a very, very small minority of all of them. Almost all addicts will find themselves, that's my host walking by, will find themselves, train of thought, jump the tracks. They're just trying to survive. That's really where they are. But they don't take drugs to OD and end it all. That isn't the way they work. But there's another way around this. It's called a maintenance program. And there was a lot of flap about it by moralists and so on. Oh, this is horrible. Why are you giving druggies needles and so on? But guess what? Patients in maintenance programs don't die of their drugs. They know they can get a fix when it's necessary, and it will be a dose that's adequate to do the job. And a lot of these people in maintenance programs are now leveled out where they can go and hold a job and be a productive member of society. There is a problem, though, when they don't have maintenance programs available. They've got to buy it from their curbside pharmacist. And the problem there is they don't know what they're getting. And let's take a look at what's going on, because there's a real economic issue here that we'll study in just a moment. But because they don't know what they're getting, people like Prince end up getting a pill that looks like Vicodin, but it was laced with fentanyl, and that's what killed him. If he'd been able to get his Vicodin pills all along, no problems. We'd still have Prince performing. Instead, he's dead. And it's because he didn't know what he's getting. The issue in overdoses is not potency. It's unknown potency. Take a look at the notes here. Okay. There are a lot of things that people are writing in about. We'll talk about those in a minute. The key here, fentanyl is what we call the proximate cause of Prince's death. That is, he took it, he got an extra dose of fentanyl, he died. That's called the proximate cause. If all you deal with is the proximate cause, you are making a very serious mistake. You have to find what the ultimate cause is before you try to treat the proximate cause. Otherwise, you're just plain stupid, and it's awfully hard to fix stupid. Grab yourself a sip. Now let's talk about what the ultimate cause is. With any of these situations, the ultimate cause is unknown potency. Or I should say that's the proximate cause. The ultimate cause, though, is not a drug problem. I've already told you how all of these drugs that are involved are perfectly safe drugs when administered properly. There's nothing whatever wrong with them. Whether they come from China or Turkey or from Sweden or from wherever, it doesn't matter. It is irrelevant. We have to ask, why are users getting a fix that is of unknown potency? And at this point, I'm going to take a moment and go to Portugal. Portugal in 2004 instituted a decriminalization policy for narcotics. And if you were an addict, you could go in and get all of the narcotic you needed to keep yourself going. And you want to know how much it cost Portugal to do this? $4 a day. That's less than a latte at Starbucks. And the reason it's so cheap is largely that all of these drugs are dirt cheap to manufacture. You can manufacture any of these narcotics for the price of aspirin. Have any of you checked the price of aspirin lately? It's less than a penny a pill. The cost of the drugs getting to the curbside pharmacy is from something else. And here's the key. There are always people in the population, and the proportion seems to be pretty steady throughout history. These people want an intoxicant. They want to get high, they want to get drunk, they want to drown their sorrows, you name it, whatever it is. They want to get intoxicated. And it doesn't seem to matter how many there are. And there have always been things through history. Opium has been around for a long time. On the Transcontinental Railway, Chinese laborers would work 6 days. They'd go into the nearest little shanty town. On the 7th day, they'd smoke their opium, get drunk on the opium, sleep it off, come back, and they're ready to go the next day. It was an intoxicant. It's the same as a tailgate party where you drink some beer. You have an intoxicant. Oh, but the beer is legal. Now, the situation changed. William Randolph Hearst, the father of yellow journalism, remember, his rag newspapers were printed on yellow paper, came up with the myth of the coolie who was out to kill white women. He was known as the opium fiend, that somehow it made him crazy and he went out on a killing spree. There was never a single case of it. It didn't happen. Opium makes you sleepy. It doesn't get you pumped up and ready to go. There are drugs that do that, but not opiates. And so he started this as a racial push. By the way, the marijuana laws in the South started the same way, as a way of suppressing the blacks. This was a racial thing. And if we are going to be conscious of our neighbors, we need to remember that it's racist and say these drug laws are started out as racist. And remember the laws against crack cocaine, the extra penalties for crack cocaine, guess what? That was all against blacks. That was a racist law. That was because the blacks were the ones who used it. In any case, if you make a drug illegal and there are people who want it, there are people who say, hey, there's money to get made here. So they'll figure out a way to get it someplace, get it to them, sell it for a profit. Hey, I'm just in business. The problem is it's an illegal business, and so the price has to be high enough to cover the risk that the seller is experiencing. And that's called a risk premium. That is an economic phenomenon with illegal substances. But if that premium goes up, now you've got the user who says, I want the good stuff for that price. So now you start pushing the potency. Price goes up, potency goes up, price goes up, you know. And then somebody else says, oh, I want in on that block. I'm going to go. And now you've got two different pushers from two different suppliers trying for your business. I got the better stuff. How does he make it better? Either he doesn't cut it as much, which was the old way of doing things, or he adds a little fentanyl to it to make it better, make it stronger. And guess what happens? You don't know how strong the drug is that you're getting. And this risk premium with an illegal drug is what causes overdoses. Remember, overdoses come from unknown potency. They don't come from high potency. High potency makes a drug safer. They come from unknown potency. If I'm used to getting a Tylenol 3, which has codeine in it, and somebody slips me a Vicodin 7.5, I'm going to have a much bigger effect. If he slips me a morphine pill, I'm going to have a bigger effect yet. But I didn't know it. And so if the effect was big enough, it could kill me. Same thing happens with the addicts. You've got competing suppliers going out there trying to buy the market with the best and hottest and strongest stuff that you can buy. The only problem is when you buy it, you have no clue what you got. And if you're used to this stuff over here and you get something stronger and you think it's like that, 72,000 deaths last year. Overdoses are not a medical phenomenon. Yes, you can treat a narcotic overdose with Narcan. It reverses the effect on the receptor. It knocks the drug off the receptor. And you may have to use big doses. No surprise. You have a medical treatment for it if you get there in time. But the reason it happens in the first case has absolutely nothing to do with the drugs. It has nothing to do with how doctors prescribe. It has everything to do with the fact that the idiots in DC wrote a law that made the drugs illegal. Portugal has shown you make them legal. Maintenance programs. Oh, by the way, on those maintenance programs, inside of 10 years, half of the patients on a maintenance program will wean themselves off. They don't want to be on those drugs any more than you or I do. So, as we look at this, the ultimate cause of drug overdoses of our opioid epidemic is not the drug. Our ultimate cause is the illegalization, the prohibition of the drugs. And guess what? When you prohibit those drugs, you make them illegal, the people sell them for profit. The DEA has said that the profits that these drug people make are immense. How do you think El Chapo had all of those people working for him and all the stuff in his crew? You know, all of these the drug kingpins are immensely wealthy. Why do you think all those Mexican gangs have all of those guns and whatnot? They're protecting immense wealth. And oh, by the way, if we decriminalized all these drugs, when it comes time to look at our southern border, they're not going to bother to spend one penny to bring them into the U.S. because there's no money to make. You got it. And think about all of the other people who are making money. The rehab people make money. The cops get to have all kinds of fancy tools and, as one movie called it, their RV, their armored vehicles, and all this other stuff so they can take down drugs. The DEA wouldn't exist. Think about all the billions of dollars we'd save. Another tax we wouldn't have to pay. I mean, use your imagination. Very quickly, you'd discover there's a lot going on that wouldn't have to go on. Plus, oh, don't worry about it. When people say, oh, we're going to have this huge bump up in use because you make it legal, didn't happen in Portugal, won't happen here. It's human nature. You're going to get what you need. You're not going to go for more once you're addicted. In any case, the downside of this is simple. It removes the incentive for politicians to do something. That's their big kick. They always want to do something. Anything out there, what's the first response? Well, we're going to hold hearings. We're going to do something about it. how about you just go home, ignore us, get out of the way, and let us live? The problem isn't your problem, and it's not one you can fix. In any rate, let's look at some notes here. We have somebody who is getting off because pain docs can't be, yeah, we're seeing a reduction in the number of pain doctors because the restrictions are high and fewer people are entering pain medicine. It's harder for pain patients to get seen and to get their meds. It's sad that the government is telling physicians what to do with regard to pain. I agree. The issue here is the government has no business in medicine. This is just one example. I mean, we could run through all kinds of things. I've done videos in the past about insurance. Insurance does not equal healthcare. As a matter of fact, having insurance raises costs and doesn't change healthcare, but that's a different study. And we have one writing in, right? Thank you. I'm the owner mod for four pain groups. The suicide rate has increased. Absolutely. We're seeing this everywhere. The restrictions are killing people. It's time to get rid of the restrictions. CDC just handed over a whole new clientele, desperately scared CPS patients in brain fog, losing jobs, not thinking straight. And it's not just the sensation of pain. It makes you crazy. Yeah, there's all kinds of stuff that goes on. I practiced pain medicine for about 5 years. It didn't suit me, but I'm well aware of these things, and I'm sorry that that's what's happening. All right, I see no other comments. We're coming close on 7:30. I appreciate you being here. Once again, please remember to like VidZette on Facebook, follow us at Twitter, and support VidZette at Patreon. And thank you again for watching. The propaganda does say otherwise. The propaganda is that. It's propaganda. It's not the truth. Spread the word. This will be up on YouTube for your friends to watch. And we can visit this again if the need arises or there is new news. Again, thanks for watching. I'm Dr. Ted Noel.